Alright, Bonehawks, this video is all about the Bonehawk podcast. And before we get too far into it, I just want to say that the gameplay that I have over this one is some gameplay that I did for a charity event last night. We played a 1st to 26 against Baby. So it's just the gameplay. I will have the full set uploaded later on this week with my commentary in 2 parts. We're raising money for an FGC family whose son was unfortunately hit in the aftermath of a drive-by shooting and unfortunately is now paraplegic. So if you would like to help support them, there's a GoFundMe that they've started, and that's what we were doing the stream for. I'll post the GoFundMe in the description down below if you want to help out with that. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the gameplay and podcast today. We're going over the new patch that dropped, some nerfs, some buffs, some tier lists, some Evo stuff. So yeah, let's get into it.
Accept your death.
So there's kind of like a weird, like, I'm not really sure how to phrase it, like Twilight phase, like Final Combat is over. There's no Season 2 that's been announced or anything. We're assuming that maybe one will come. But we also awkwardly have Evo, so this seems to be where kind of, we're just kind of chilling. NCEO next weekend, which I saw that they're not streaming any of the pools for, which I thought was an odd choice. I didn't see the entrance
for any game
for Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see the entrance numbers, so maybe they were like super duper low or something. But
Dude, you remember how lit up Bailey was last year at the Chilean Twins when they were mirror matching Nightwolf and reflecting arrows back and forth at each other at grand finals, and it's like 11 p.m. and everyone wants to go home or whatever. He thought they were sandbagging, like fucking, like, they weren't, right? But he was tired and angry, and man, he was pissed. So I wonder if it's
that was like payback.
I'm not trying
for
to make
that
assumptions, but I totally remember that.
And yeah, CEO isn't anything like official or anything like that. It's not towards any point. It's just at this point, it's just a major. It's just a major. Same with Evo, which is odd enough. They didn't include Evo in the Final Combat. I'm curious.
Did you see how many entrants MK1 had?
At CEO or Evo?
At CEO.
I did not. I can find that.
I have not looked. It was like a surprise to me. I saw it, Mr. Aquaman's tweet about it earlier, about it being this next weekend, and I was like, "Damn, I'm so like out of the loop." That's like news to me.
Yeah, I was the same way. I saw that and I was like, "What? CEO? How come nobody's talking about it?"
I feel like there's something going on like every weekend, right? Like last weekend it was DreamHack Sweden and Final Combat and
tournament season, I guess.
Everything leading up to all of that. And now we've got CEO, and then we've got Evo and Capcom season 2 is going on. If you are watching like other fighting games and stuff like that, there's other pro circuits happening. It's just like things happening all the time. I feel like it's a good time to like fighting games.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree. I'm currently trying to find the number. So 113 attendees for Mortal Kombat 1 at sea. So that is quite low in my opinion, especially for a game that's not even a year old yet, in a region that has some of the most NRS players.
Very, very strong players as well.
Yeah, very, very strong players.
You think people lost faith in NRS, like in the game?
I think we'll talk about that because we got to go over the patch and stuff that went over this week. So before we get too far into it, let's go over some comments as we always do. So starting with Jermaine 9257 says the balance for Kenshi is to make his balance stance more strong and useful, so people can be viable with it and not only Sento. I feel like I'm not sure this is the sauce that we need for Kenshi. I feel like, I know we've talked about this before, that like it's just not a great design. Like just the way that Kenshi works just isn't the greatest. I think Sento could be reworked in different ways that are more effective. But I think just buffing his other stance is not the way to go. Because currently that's like his weakness, right? It's the one stance he doesn't have anything super crazy in.
Right, they made it there's not very much gray. There's not much of a gradient, right? Like it's either on or it's off. There's Kenshi in on mode and Kenshi in off mode. There's no like in between. So how do you marry those two things to try to like not take too much of the idea and vision of the Sento stance without making things too ridiculous.
Yeah, either making the character crazy or just not fun at all to play. So I'm hoping for just a whole rework of Kenshi. It feels like he's just doesn't fit in the game. But the game that he's trying to play either works way too well or doesn't work at all. So hopefully they can find some way to mitigate that, make him a viable character.
On my Twitter feed about an hour ago, I saw a Mike Metroid tweet. Kenshi may be better if he wasn't tied to Cameo, he was tied to Meter instead. And then you could just make the non-Sento stance a little bit stronger to like compensate, but that might help balance some
That's
things out.
that's
I don't know how you feel
interesting.
about that.
The only thing that I would wonder there is if it's not tied to the cameo, then that means potentially you could have Sento and a cameo at the same time, which does not sound like anything that I want to participate in, if I'm being honest, especially with the way some of the cameos are right now. But I do like the idea of tying Sento to Meter, even if it just disabled the cameo while Sento was out. Seems like
Right.
an idea, but yeah, thanks for the input there. Appreciate that. PGE Phoenix 1902 says, I know he lost. My friend and I were so hyped when Ninja switched to Liu Kang tied 2-2. Nicholas was insane. And I mean, this is classic, like Ninja Killa, known for years and years for playing Liu Kang and then switched to Peacemaker mostly. I think maybe played a little bit of Johnny Cage, but mostly Peacemaker in Final
All
Combat.
right, and his fan base wants to see Liu Kang, and he's not playing Liu Kang, and they want to root for him, and they're screaming for him to switch to Liu Kang.
That's and as someone who's a character loyalist as well and has kind of built a bit of a name around a character, I feel that. But I also feel that they're playing for life-changing amounts of money here. So I can't say I blame them, but also I get it from the fan perspective that you feel. I I don't really want to use the term like sell out, but I can't really think of a better
No,
way to word it though. Like
no, because it makes sense, right? It's not like he's selling a soul or anything like that, right? Or like he's not really betraying anybody or betraying anybody himself. It's just like people want to see him, play that. And he would probably prefer to be playing Liu Kang. And this is like as great as really high level competitive fighting games are, and this applies to like every fighting game. We talked about this a little bit last week, and the how the meta just seems to shake down to just like a handful of characters, and that's all you see, and high concentrations of in a lot of like high level play. So as good as it is to like watch high level gameplay, it can get like really boring really fast. It's way cooler. I love watching streams when there's a tournament happening, you know, pools top 128, top 64, whatever. It's not until, I would say even like top 16. And I think things are way less interesting in top 8 as far as like it's all about kind of player arc at that point, unless the, characters, unless, a specialist slips in there or something like that. But, like what we had at like Final Combat, right?
I was gonna say, I think the LCQ bracket was a lot more fun to watch than even the group stage of Final Combat because there was just so much more storylines and characters and cameos and although it was a lot dominated by top tier, there was a lot more chance, and you saw all of these specialists with their characters coming out to make this tournament hype. And I mean, all the people that have already qualified are the ones using the top tiers, so it was really a nice mix. Even having like Gur, Garrus, and be exceptional with Ashura in the finals. I mean, that's cool. I like to see that kind of stuff. But at the top tier, you are just gonna see the top tier characters when it comes to that. So I don't really think there's too many fighting games that are super. That's actually one thing. To sidetrack a little bit, that I thought that Street Fighter 6 did really well, because watching the Street Fighter 6 top 8 at Combo Breaker seemed like it had a fairly decent range of characters, and the character that won wasn't necessarily who everyone thought was going to win. So I mean, that game's kind of doing it well. So maybe NRS can figure it out, and something like that can happen for MK1, and we'll have a completely different top 8 for Evo, if they even do any changes for Evo. But
Yeah, the Street Fighter thing. So what you say is true about Street Fighter, but the important context that's missing is that Capcom dropped a patch 2 days before Combo Breaker, which
Ah, there you go.
included Akuma as the character, right? So everyone was kind of like panicking, like, so do we just not update the consoles, right? Do we play pre-patch, or let it rock? And they put it out to the community, and everyone said let her rip, and like look what happened, and people like literally had like 2 days with it, you know.
Right. I mean,
To figure out the changes, like what changed about system mechanics and all the characters and stuff, and that was cool. That was fun to watch.
yeah, I think that would be rather frustrating as a competitor, but it was extremely fun to watch as a casual, just seeing what's going on. So, that being said, we're going on to this next comment here from Jody3814. This podcast is so good, but the random gameplay in the back kind of ruins it. I'd much rather be watching you guys talk or be watching clips from the fights you guys are talking about. You probably will never see video of us just talking, to be quite honest. I don't think that's something we really want to do. But I could probably throw some more clips in, or even just like some still images of things that we're talking about,
Should
just to
we
mix
be
things up.
VTubers? Should we both get like VTuber avatars?
I mean, we have the Quan and the Shang
Like
with the headset.
unironically, right? If people want to see something, right, and it doesn't need to be anything like, you know, it doesn't need to be like a mushroom with huge boobies or anything like that, or whatever. It could just be like a dog smoking a cigar. Can I be a dog smoking a cigar?
I
Can
mean,
you
if
set that up? You
I
got a guy?
I could do that, we could have like maybe like come up with some characters and like every week just kind of nudge them a little bit, put a little funny hat on one of them or something like that, Because like yeah, I don't think face cams are a thing that's gonna happen. But as far as like the things that we're actually going over, yeah, for the most part, like I I just want to get something out, and I really want to focus more with this on our conversations and kind of like getting some personality and talking about topics more than the actual visuals. But I get it that the visuals do help, and we are on YouTube, so I mean, I'll definitely take that to heart and give me a rating on how do you think I did on this episode, whether you were visually stimulated enough or not, because I'll definitely throw some more stuff your way. Thanks for the feedback, though. Any feedback to make this thing better is kind of what we're doing. We're still pretty early on, but we've managed to be fairly consistent since we've started. What are we? This will be, I think, our 8th one, and we've only missed 1 week. So I mean, hopefully we keep improving as we
Yeah,
go
because you
along.
went to Combo Breaker.
And we're probably going to miss another one when I go to
Jeez.
Evo. Jeez, who's going to Evo?
Jeez.
Hope I meet you at Evo. Come say hi. Last comment here. Jake Katsunie says, "I feel like the game will get better before it gets worse." And I feel like
Mm,
because there was a patch that dropped recently, and I feel like this is a good segue into that patch. So I was not gonna lie, I was expecting after Final Combat the same thing that happened after ECT, where they just completely gutted Sirens. Like, and then I expected that for Khameleon because I think there was a Khameleon in every single set in Final Combat. So I was hoping that they would make some nerfs to Khameleon, and they did. I will say they made some changes to Khameleon. I will also say that those changes were either way too far on the safe side, or they don't fully understand what's wrong with the cameo. Because like
or that's how they just want her to be. Like, suck it up, Junior. It's kind of like there's no way that they don't know, right? You
I
know that they know what people think because people are screaming about it all day, all over the internet,
yeah,
and I know people watch it, right?
it's
I
true.
know that there's people there that see it. I know that they have the message like loud and clear, and I feel like this is their response. I think that they're really comfortable just kind of like, we agree it's a little strong, so I tell you what, let's take off 50 health. How about that? And I think that is weak. I don't like that response at all in any regard.
I
Trying to balance through health value, I'm not a big fan of that.
I agree. I don't think that really helps at all. I think that just kind of hurts the problem even more. And in addition to that, they took off a little bit of pushback from the Molina roll, but I mean, it's still an unreactable overhead. you can mix up in strings.
But can you at least punish it consistently now?
It's a little better. It is definitely a little better, and like
S-
Khameleon doesn't stand like right in your way as much anymore, so yeah, it makes it easier.
So this would be a good segue to another part of that patch, because I have Melina player privilege, and anybody that has a reversal that goes far, right? You don't really have to worry about fatal blows that get blocked from 3/4 screen. You always at least get like a ball roll and reversal sort of thing. So now that Peacemaker just kind of like flies over your head and stuff, it's just kind of like, oh, just ball roll. But what is
All
everyone
right.
else doing about it?
Ah,
What is
yes, the Peacemaker
How did
change.
they tried to, do you think they tried to nerf him and accidentally buffed him, or do you think they knew exactly what they were doing and they gave him a buff disguised as a nerf?
I think that is yet to be seen. I get what you're saying, and I definitely particularly don't think that that was a very strong change one way or another. If anything, I think it kind of keeps them the same, because like now you just kind of want to block it. It just won't catch movement as much anymore. But then even if it doesn't, it just flies right over you, and then what do you do about it? Luckily, Quan Chi can standing 4 punish, so he still gets something similar to
Right.
how Molina works. So I'm not really too concerned about it. It's not a great punish, but it's something better than nothing. If you're kind of moving around trying to duck the bullets and go in. Uh, but yeah, so
Do you
Shujinko
think
is also a
Peacemakers
hot.
are better off with this change or pre-patch?
I still think pre-patch is probably where it's at, but again, I don't really know. I haven't seen too much Peacemaker play. Like I think I saw Champions of the Realms that Mighty Unjust won it with Peacemaker. So and that was after the patch. So mind you, solid, one of the best players in the world still, but I mean, I don't know. It wasn't enough to get him to switch off Peacemaker. So I don't really know what to say yet. I personally don't think it was enough. I think he's just so annoying in so many other areas that I don't think the torpedo was necessarily the problem. But I don't. We'll see, I suppose.
Well, now that it can whiff, right? Wouldn't he prefer it for it to whiff? Thank you for that space again for my annoying ass full screen game,
Now I'm
that I just torpedoed my way into. I think that's what people's concern was when I'm talking. This is like day one, patch day
right.
one. That's like the last time I don't know how it's shaken out, since
Yeah.
then.
I mean, yeah, he's
That's why I'm
kind of
asking you.
he's zoning. He's using his cameos, whether it's Kano, whatever. Then he starts, maybe he's cornering himself, and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm in the corner, torpedo, and right over your head, back to mid screen, back we go the other way. Get to the corner that way, torpedo, over he goes, and back he goes the other way, and it's up to the player to kind of read that, block it, as opposed to just like not blocking under the or reacting to the gunshots. And yeah, I don't. I think he's like Kenshi, where he's not a poor design, but it's just an annoying design. Just the way that the character plays is annoying to deal with.
He's also a 950 health character. I don't think. I think it kind of sucks to play like a 900 health character if you are the character starts with 950 and then you play a cameo that takes away like another 50.
Right.
That does kind of suck, but in the end, there's plenty of people that think that it's totally worth it, right? Like how many Johnny Goros and things like that were already running around, or Kanos, or whatever, that were doing that, and now Peacemaker's, two strongest cameos, Kano and Khameleon, those both take away 50, and he's a 950 health character now, right? So now he's running around with 900 health with those cameos. But again, I don't think that's a deterrent. I think they're trying to implement that as. I remember very specifically during MK11. This is back when Paulo used to come onto the streams, and he did it a couple times in Injustice 2 to talk about some of the broader balance changes and stuff like that. And I remember him being on one of the streams for MK11, and is when they took away 50 health from Cassie Cage and made some of those other changes in the patch and stuff. And he was explaining that the idea behind that is that they would lose, they would have one less opportunity of a poke situation.
Right.
So I feel like in his mind, at least at that time, right, that's just a down one, right? It just kind of like but I don't think that it quite shakes out that way, right? Like, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll
I
be.
don't like the health as an answer for that sort of stuff, and I don't think it's a deterrent. It does make a difference, but man,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it just feels lazy to me and not really that helpful. I mean, yeah, I get to the point of, yeah, it's like one or two poke situations, but I don't know. I don't think that is really the issue in this game. So especially not like it was in MK11. In MK11, pokes were huge, so I mean that made a lot more sense in that game, but not in this game. You have pokes into cameos that could possibly net you
Well,
50 chip
now think
damage.
of it as maybe not just like a down one or something, but it's like, I mean, that's a projectile, right? Projectiles do, like weak projectiles do like 50, right? And
Yeah,
stronger ones are like 70 or something. And then really strong ones are like 90 or higher.
yeah, yeah. That sounds about right. Um, so one of the main things with that last patch was a lot of the Homelander fixes. They changed a whole lot of stuff he could do, and a bunch of stuff that it's funny because I actually didn't even know half of this. Things that could have been parried by his little dirty trick parry. One of them was Quan Chi's forward 2, where he pulls a skeleton out of the ground. I really wish I could have like labbed that to see the animation of what that looked, to see like Homelander parry that. That would be so funny. And then like there's someone's like Ashura's Demon's Wrath and Light Ascension, like stuff like that.
Really? He could parry that?
He could parry that. So, or no, now he. Oh, sorry, now he can parry that. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Okay, he can also parry Baraka Barrage. I misread this when I first read these attacks. Torso Twist, Havoc. That makes sense. Yeah, a lot of the rest of them make sense. Ashura's is just a weird one.
Because it's a punch parry, right? So that has to have these sort of distinctions. So they just are what, flagging all these special moves manually? Because these are all special moves, right?
No, a lot of these are. These ones are all special move. Yes, so they're
Making sure they're being registered as punches for the parrying.
So it's largely like Homelander was just a fix. This character was not what he was supposed to be when he launched. He launched either way too early or something happened. Thus is the story of this game. So that is what it is. And then of course Cyrax, they reverted Cyrax back to how he was, which is controversial because a lot of people were like, Cyrax wasn't like that big of an issue in the final combat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he only completely replaced Janet Cage, who would have been there without him there. But that's how video games work, right? It creates a power vacuum.
Yep.
And it's got to be filled by somebody. But you can see people think that, yeah, pre-patch Cyrax is definitely better than Janet for the most part.
And then
still Khameleon at the tippy top, and Cyrax right behind that.
And then after nerfing Cyrax, they also nerfed Janet. They increased their combo damage on her hot punch, which they've already done once before, so they kind of reverted that down again. So
oh, go ahead, sorry.
What I think is that they're wanting more people to put the time and effort into the Sento, the Gento as people have called it, because yeah, they haven't really nerfed that at all. And I've seen some crazy damage with that, but the execution with that is incredible. Like, but what I've seen, it's really really good. So maybe they're just trying to make it so less people just use the hot punch and that's all they use, and more people are using it more.
Exactly. She's more than just, I feel like that's NRS saying she's more than just one ability, right? Use other things, and we'll do that by making this worse, but it usually just puts people off the entire cameo.
Yeah.
And it kind of like backfired, just like it did with Cyrax. I feel like it was the same thing with Cyrax. No, he's more than just the horizontal copter chopper. It's like, no, he's not, unless, you're Sindel or some other loyalist.
With some crazy cameo callback speed.
Gearus and a couple others that he works still really well with that doesn't need that, right? People that can make really good use of like the net and some bomb setups and the throw combos and things. But
yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what I was thinking the other day? With the way that they've done all of these DLC cameos, do you think they could ever, let's say like in a Combat Pack 2 or something like that, do you think they could ever release like a Kano again? Like, hey, here's our brand new cameo and he's got 4 moves. Hear me out here. It's like, yeah, I know that, you're used to like 18, 19 moves at this point, but, we fucking ran out of ideas, all right?
This is what you're getting. Like, I mean, they continually surprise me with what they come up with, to be honest.
They can't go backwards, though. They have to continue to escalate. When does the bubble burst?
I mean, it's true. I mean, at what point, like, if you get another Combat Pack 2, then that's, what, 4 more cameos? And then, like, 4 more crazy ideas you have to come up with? And then, why play Kano or Sonya at that point? You know, like, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe they have plans to add more moves for those characters. I don't know. Or those cameos. I don't know what they would add, or in what instance they would add them.
You know that show Lost? Do you remember that? That might be a little old for some of you young people out there now. That was really popular in the 2000s. Like, took people by storm. You know what I'm talking about? The show Lost?
I remember everyone I know watching it. I never watched it myself, but I think that's the one that had some controversialness to it at the end there.
Yeah, well, it was just like blowing people away at the beginning, right? And then, like, eventually, and by eventually, I mean like a few episodes in, there's some stuff that really just started not to like make sense. And, it kind of like went along, and it was on for several seasons. And yeah, it had its kind of controversial ending. But it's because they were like kind of like shooting from the hip the whole time. They had a really good idea at Greenland. This is how J.J. Abrams, the creator or whatever, explains it. They had this really good idea, and it got greenlit. But they didn't. They were kind of writing as they go, like literally writing on the days that they were filming, like writing lines and stuff like that. And you can see just how far it just gets away from what's our original sort of like idea, right? Or if you don't like have a really at least kind of like a basic foundation or a rough roadmap, how easy it is to like get all these branches, and it gets all things get like really carried away, and that show got really diluted and didn't make any sense or whatever. Anyway, that's my really long analogy, and that's how I feel about MK1. Is like they have a really good idea, like, let's go. We got a deadline, let's go. And now that we're this deep into it, it's like, well, shit, what is this going to look like a year from now?
What do we do
Right?
now?
We're really now at this point asking ourselves some really hard questions. I don't know. Am I being a doomer? I don't feel
Well,
like I'm being a doomer. I'm trying not to be.
so, and I mean, this is a big question that I think everyone's asking right now is like, what is the future of MK1? Now, we know that they've hinted at a big story expansion, and in a lot of the intros, there's some characters, especially in some of Quan's intros, mentions some characters that were not mentioned ever before, other than these intros. Now, it wouldn't be the first time they've done that in MK games in the recent history, but I mean, it kind of leads me to believe that maybe they're starting to like kind of pepper in some ideas of some new characters that are coming down the pipeline or something like that. That they have stuff planned, both story wise and to add to the game, to kind of keep things going, keep things fresh. But to your point, I don't really see how they keep things interesting, I guess is what I'll say. I don't know how they keep things creative, and if these characters that are going to come around will even kind of fit the bill of what we need to kind of keep things, keep new eyes coming to the game and keep current eyes on the game, because there's both of those, especially as like is this it seems like they're doing like a Fortnite type thing where they release the game and then they just build on it for years, and I just don't know how big the Mortal Kombat universe is to keep doing that without adding stuff, resetting every once in a while.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be. I don't know how. I'm always curious of what the more casual player base thinks, because a lot of the competitive player base doesn't seem very interested, right? As soon as Final Combat was over, that's like now everyone's playing what they want to play.
Yeah.
Once bags secured, or oh well, we'll get them next time.
We'll
Sort
get
of
them
thing.
next time.
I mean, there are people still playing. It's not I don't know. It. Dude, the game is really fun, but it is also kind of like a buzzkill sometimes. Just like the bigger picture and stuff about it. But it's sad because it is really fun.
I really enjoy playing, and I still play it every single day. So I mean, I have a lot of fun with the game, and I think a lot of other people do too. One
I would
thing,
play it a lot more if it weren't for competing interests, and that's kind of my issue, right? Like, it just needs to, go up, and every once in a while it does do that, or I don't have anything else going on, and then it like charms me all over again, and it's fun till it's not. The fighting game saga.
yeah, there's just a lot and that's the problem with having a game that's made on longevity is there's just so much stuff that happens that it's like hard to keep it more relevant than other things that are happening, like the big Street Fighter 6 patch that drops like before Combo Breaker. I think Tekken had an update recently, if I saw. And
Mm-hmm.
then for you non-fighting game players, we got the Elden Ring DLC that people have been waiting for like 2 or 3 years. So like, how do you compete with that? You know, it's just
You don't.
it's just it it's hard to keep that interest, and that's fine. You know, people are going to their interests are going to waver, but as long as you have enough to when they're done with something else to be bringing them back in and want them to put that time back in, I think that's what they might struggle with a little bit more so than not. But like you said, the game is still fun. It's at a point now where you're nobody's getting kind of gunned down too much by the same characters. So you're gonna have your top tiers in every game, but it's not as bad as it was. Which kind of leads me into my next point of Evo, because I'm really curious what NRS is going, or if NRS is really going to do much for Evo, because it's not part of their final combat. They haven't announced a season 2 unless they plan to do so before Evo, which would be odd. It's possible that this is the version of the game
Yeah,
that we're
they're
getting.
usually out there, for Evo. And we see 16-bit out there, and Tyler and Ed Boon, and
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, because they were at Combo Breaker and then they were at Final Combat. So it'll be interesting to see they if they make the trek out to Evo, because there's not obviously Evo is world championships and that kind of thing. But I mean, with Final Combat, that's kind of like Mortal Kombat's own quite literally world championship. You had people from all over the globe there. So I mean, what is Evo even going to look like? Maybe like none of the top players bother showing up. They've made their bag. They just want to chill. And
doesn't that almost make it more interesting with all this fresh blood in there? And there's like a lot of the people did stay home, so more people make it out of pools, and as the brackets get smaller and smaller and get weeded out, and names that we've never seen before, does that make it more exciting?
I mean, I think this is probably the best chance I got at making top 8. If none of the top players are showing up, hey, throw me in, coach. I'm like a tier 3 guy. Maybe I can do some upsets with my worst character in the game.
No, you got it. Yeah, worst character in the game.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what Sonicfox said.
I got a whole video prep for that response, so I don't want to go too far into that topic right now. But they did release a tier list we can talk about. But before that, I want to get into Ferra being delayed. So Ferra is delayed till July, which I believe is after Evo. I think she comes out the Tuesday
I
after
thought she was
Evo.
coming out in July anyway. Don't they
That's
usually alternate months? So Homelander was June and Farrah was July, or do the cameos usually come out just a couple weeks later?
It usually is staggered like a month by month thing, but they did advertise her as coming out at late June initially. So kind of breaking the mold initially, and then ended up not. So, but I mean, because yeah, that would have meant um, that Takeda would come out in August technically, but now they're both coming out at the same time, Takeda and Farah. So that's really interesting. And
Somebody didn't update the template since they said Peacemaker was coming out in late April or whatever, right? And they made it by one day, and then there that text sat, and then they went and copy and pasted it, and they forgot to take out the late, update it from late June to just say July.
it could be something as simple as that. You never know, like a copy paste
No.
error. But
How do you feel about Farrah? We talked about it a little bit. I went back and watched it, and I was like, the mounting thing. They look so weird walking around. Like, I'm
yeah,
so curious how that's gonna play out.
I like
Like,
in my
I don't know.
mind. In my mind, that's a good cameo for Quan, because it looks like it makes your backdash quite a bit better, which is kind of what he wants to do. Plus, it'll give him what we think, we don't know for sure, but 150 health, um, which is a lot for him. But the idea is that you're supposed to use that health on the pain and gain, because the pain and gain takes away 150 health if you use the full thing to get the damage boost.
But you could, if you've got a life lead, then may as well just. I'd like that sort of idea. It's not. You could use it in a clutch situation and get out with a sliver of health and you had barely enough to squeak by. Or you use it when you're already snowballing the way that Quan does, and then you just double down on that, when you've already got the life lead, so you may as well. Then things just, get worse for the opponent. I really like it for that sort of idea.
Yeah, those types of things are super cool when executed correctly, and we'll see. I'm I will say it's a good sign to me that they decide to delay Farah, because rather than release her in a state that perhaps wasn't the greatest, I'm very curious, and of course we'll never know for sure, but I'm curious why they decided to kind of bench her for the time being. But I don't know. I don't really know. I'm excited to see what they release. If I were to guess, that's going to be a really big balance patch that goes with these two characters, because like they're waiting specifically until Evo is over. They're the last of the DLC that are coming out together at the same
Can
time.
you we're not even in the same room and I can smell in the air. You smell that copium? Oh man, this is a story I've heard from NRS players since the dawn of time. That copium for the patch it's robust, it has all the things we've been waiting for, and the carrot is that it's after the next tournament. The next tournament happens and there's like maybe two things, and all they did was make two things worse than they were, and then it moves on. But it's like that copium for the holy patch that's going to change everything for us all. You really think that's coming?
I do. I really do. It makes the most sense after Final Combat's done, after Evo's done. They release a big patch to
Why do
shake
you think they
things
care
up.
about Evo?
I just think they respect the tournament enough to not drop a huge patch right before it. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they don't give a fuck, and like 2 days before Evo, same that Street Fighter did with Combo Breaker, they're like, whatever,
Or
here you
like
go.
4 days before Final Combat and introducing a patch with a character with an infinite and accidentally reverting another cameo or whatever and saying we can't fix it in time, so we're just going to let it rock through the finale for our season 1 competitive circuit.
I
You think
Nothing
they've
would
got those
surprise
those sorts of plans when stuff like that happens?
nothing would surprise me if I'm being honest. Maybe they do drop something like next week when it's a crazy balance patch. Now here you go. You got 3 weeks to figure this shit out. Good luck at Evo.
What do you think? Let's play a game. Let's play a little bit of game. What do you think is going to be accidentally broken on the next patch with Farah? What do you think is going to stop working as intended?
There's gonna be some funkiness around the painting game. I think. I think the damage scaling is gonna be kind of fucked depending on. There's gonna be one or two certain instances where that damage scaling gets a little bit too out of control. That would be my guess of something to go funky with her. There also could be maybe some movement thing. Did you have an idea of what you thought might your guess of what might be wrong with
No.
Farah?
No, I'm not saying just Farah. I'm just saying like the patch, right? Like whether it's desync issues or whatever it may be. It just feels like there's always some sort of something that comes along with it. Now I do feel like I'm being a doomer. We should move on. I'm going to be positive. I'm really just kind of the game put me in a bad mood. I really am just mad because I want to like it, but man, it just I'm really trying over here. You know,
So
I'm
okay,
really trying.
so
Give me
let's
something.
let's go to a more positive route here. So, do you have any guess on what kind of things we're going to see with Takeda? We've only seen the one little clip of him in the Combat trailer. It looks, I mean, this was almost a year ago this trailer came out. I think it might have been a year ago, getting close to it now. But it looks like he has his same whips that he had in MKX, and I think he needs to have those because that's what makes him unique. Like, that's that character. It's what makes him different from the other
I
characters.
wish Lasher was the most popular variation. When that game first came out, that was like what stood out to me the most. Probably on the whole roster was that specific variation, like his weapon, the whips. I thought were super cool.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we didn't see those. Again, saw them in the teaser, but that was a year ago. So who knows? Uh, but yeah, I, I imagine I don't know how they would really mix that up, or if they just kind of make him like a mixture of what he
Well,
was in MKX. Because he had a lot of cool things.
there was some discussion in the Discord recently from some Takeda mains saying that other Takeda mains, they're all, talking to each other, and maybe they're expecting him to have three stances, lightsaber stance and lasher stance and sword stance.
That would be cool.
Say, what is it? Saber whips and
Yeah, the
which one am I
Lasher,
forgetting?
the Shira Ryu had the kunai that she threw. That was like his
Mm,
the plus unblock kunai. Um,
right.
I feel like the Shira Ryu and Lasher were similar. Lasher just gave the mix-ups that were unsafe. Um, I mean, different stances would be cool, even if they just had the two stances between like the whips and like the lightsaber. Like a weird threaded cane from Bloodborne kind of thing. You can kind of switch
That'd be
between the
awesome.
two. I would love that. I think that would be super sick.
Like a trick weapon from Bloodborne. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
that'd be super cool. And like the cool ass animations when you're switching between them, it's like, whoosh, like we're getting serious out here, you know?
No, you're actually getting me excited about Takeda. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that transition between like the whips and the sabers, but I mean, if they could do that, that'd be kind of sick. And then I would imagine he'd probably be some sort of a long range combo character in the whips, and then maybe like a pressure character with the sabers. Similar, like I mean, he was mix-ups with the sabers in MKX. Like those mix-ups were crazy. But also he had some plus on block cancels by dropping the saber on the ground. I don't know particularly that we'll see that return. I don't think that we need to if he
I
had both
think
stances.
this game does not have that mechanic, right?
It'd be something
That
new.
something that can be placed on the ground and then recalled, like Robin's Birderang as well, and Injustice 2.
Yeah.
Like Takeda could do an MKX, so maybe they'll give him that because we haven't seen that. Am I wrong? Have we seen it since Robin?
I mean, you have
Was it in
Movado, but that's
MK11
not really the
or
thing.
this game?
Oh,
Yeah.
MK11, I think MK11 has just been wiped from my brain. I don't remember what goes on in that game other than what Spawn does and a little bit of what Baraka does. So I would be not the greatest.
I bet that I could see them adding that for sure. Just since it's like not in the game, it seems really obvious.
Yeah, I mean, you only have the Movado cameo that does anything similar to that. So I mean, that'd be kind of
Yeah.
cool. Could create some fuckiness with cameos, but I mean, that's what the QA department is for or something, I guess. Finally, they left us with a piss ass easy infinite for a week and a half. So I mean, my faith in them
Hey, it
is
may not be the QA department, right? All they can do is report it, then it still has to get fixed. They're not the ones that do that, so
yeah.
don't know who to blame.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see those two kind of come out together. What kind of health pool Takeda has? Do they deem him worthy of, or whatever? However, they determine who gets what health for Quan. But I think from
Right.
there, let's go over this tier list that Sonic put out. Again, I'm gonna go over everything but Quan because I have a lot of thoughts on that. And I want to so, and it'll be on screen for everyone as well. So, the obvious two, I mean, Johnny Cage and Peacemaker. That was all the top 8 was at Final Combat. There's reasons for that. Johnny Cage is just, I feel like he's Cyrax from MK9, like the leaky boat. They've tried to fix him in a multitude of different ways. It's not working. And here he sits still at the top of the heap. Best frame data in the game. My idea, and Johnny players can either roast me or praise me depending on what they think of this. I think he needs to be more reliant on his hype mode and less powerful overall. I think his thing, like, because how I see it right now is hype is a tool he can use, but he doesn't necessarily need it to win. I think if you change Johnny to where he needed his hype mode to win, or at least give him a much better chance at winning, I think that would be cool. Like he's maybe his
Like
frame
it should
data.
be his goal, like jury building stocks or something like that, right?
Exact.
He should, at the beginning of a round, it should be his goal to try to build that up, and then he can unload on you,
Yeah.
rather than it just being the whipped cream that's on top of just the cake that he's already you
Like
know
maybe
sitting on.
maybe make his frame data like not as great. Like he can rush down a little bit, but it pressure ends fairly quickly, kind of a thing. Like change the 1-1, and then maybe when he gets his hype build, maybe he gets that good frame data back afterwards, and like he gets the plus frames and the hold it and a 2-1 cancels or 3-1 cancels, whatever you want to do for it. But I think where I would be careful about this is going down the Kenshi route, right? Where it's like too strong in one way and too weak in another. It's that balance is important. I think you could do it a little bit easier with Johnny. I think that whole design is better than the Kenshi design, but I think that he needs to work a little harder and not just forward three his way to victory. You know what I mean?
I do what you mean, and you know way better than I do. Right? I trust your opinion on it. I don't really have any hot takes as far as Johnny, not that people haven't already shared anyway.
Yeah,
He's
he's strong.
public enemy number one.
Nobody wants to fight Johnny Cage. Everyone wants to use him. Um, Peacemaker, I don't really know. We covered that a little bit. They nerfed him a little bit. We'll see how that goes. I don't really know what else you could do to the character without completely wrecking him. So, but classic.
Anything else that stands out to you on this tier list, placement wise?
I mean, what was interesting to me is that Sonic ranked this. Like, this is like character at the bottom is the worst, character at the top is the best. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I've seen somebody make a tier list like that.
I think that's fairly common.
Yeah.
I feel like these days most people are specifying not ordered, but I see a lot of people ordering them.
Yeah, so that must not be something that I'm seeing as well. I like when I make my tier list, there's so many variables. I feel like it would be hard to pinpoint which ones are exactly better than the others. But if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the best player in the world. So I mean, gotta kind of trust that. Sindel being the third best character on this list is very interesting. And then Tanya, and then Kenshi. I think a lot of people were kind of gawking at the Kenshi there. Not too far down though is Melina, your girl, in what top 10 character looks like. I would agree with that.
I feel like that's a common, that seems to be the consensus with most people.
She kind of works
Where
with.
she's kind of like ended up.
She plays this game really, really well, and she fits with almost every cameo.
But she's got too many characters ahead of her, that are like stronger than her, so she kind of stays off the radar. So
Yeah, which is
that's
fair.
kind of that's kind of like where you want when you play a character. That's kind of where you want them to live, right? You don't want them to get, nerfed next season or something, or
Yeah, yeah. Well,
but you
that's
don't
true.
want her to be trashed here either.
Reiko's another one that's kind of hovering up there. Like when I was going over him in my Wheel of Shujinkydink video last time, I was going through his frame data and his moves. I was like, man, this character's got some really good buttons.
He does have some very good buttons
And some really funky hitboxes. So, but yeah, not as good as some of the other characters. Katana being so high is nice to see. I think Retro largely influenced that with all his videos and stuff like that. And then other than that, not really too much really surprises me. Maybe Homelander being a little lower than I thought, but I mean he's still fairly new, and I get it. I don't think he's the strongest character ever, but he's got some funky mix-ups. Maybe not to someone that can react like Sonic can, though. You know, you never know. And then
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen any high level Homelander. Not since he was fixed with the meter fixes and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, I've only played a couple random ones online. I've never played like a set with somebody. Um, so I only have to go by there. But I found him really annoying to deal with. But once I kind of break him down a little bit more, he's less and less intimidating. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage for a whole lot of the like your hands hurt inputting his combos, and the damage output you get from that is not very rewarding. So
Yeah, you're like, I'm sending myself to the doctor for what?
yeah, exactly. Carpal tunnel for 324 damage. Sick. Love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
I don't give myself carpal tunnel for anything less than 40%.
that's that's a firm line right there. That's all
Yeah,
I'm doing.
I'm not spending more than a bar for that either.
Another hot take I saw on this tier list was was the Sub-Zero placement. There was, I think, probably 60% of the comments on there were Sub-Zero players. And
Of course, there was. They were.
I blame Tom Brady. Tom Brady, this is your doing. You have turned
No,
everybody
between
against
Tom
the
Brady
game.
and Sikander, I think that
Oh
between
God,
those
yeah.
two, probably the most.
Yeah, they've created this whole Sub-Zero sucks mentality. And I mean, I don't think he's a particularly strong character, but I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people say he is. But
Well, the thing is, you can't even say that something else sucks without them stepping in and being like, "Well, yeah, that sucks for sub too." Like, okay,
yeah,
I agree. Thanks.
we're both struggling here. Like that's yeah, great job, well done, good talking point. So yeah, that was kind of
Like they hear you from the other fucking room and come in. Like, you get a text message or something. Like subs got gaps.
people are like, "Oh, did you watch the new episode of The Boys? Oh, the one with Sub-Zero having all the gaps."
Yeah, the one with Sub Zero's clone getting punished. Like,
Full combo punch. You could just armor through, bro. Just armor. Sub-Zero being higher than Shang is kind of crazy to me, though. I will say, as someone who's played Shang Tsung, Shang has like some of the highest meterless damage in the game. With that standing four, forward four, forward four. But yeah, I guess, and I feel like a broken record. I say this all the time. I feel one of the most unexplored characters in the game. I think with all the things that Shang can do, I think there's some real sauce hiding there that no one has found yet. So, but I guess we have to go by what people have found, which I still don't agree is worse than Sub. But I mean, what do I know? I'm not the best player in the world. Then the usual suspects: Scorpion, Garrus, Havoc. Which Sonic said that Havoc has like some really dirty stuff, and it's going to be their next like project is working with Havoc. So I'm curious to see. Didn't elaborate on any of that in the video that I watched, but just said Havoc's got some really dirty stuff. So I don't know if there's some Tether stuff or what.
Video Game Joe posted a tier list earlier and had Havoc at bottom 1 and Quan at 2 and then Atara above that. So same bottom 3, I believe, just in different order.
In different order.
But Havoc was bottom 1.
Yeah. I mean,
the broad strokes are there. The conversation seems to be the same, like at large. Most of the convolution and most of the contention in this tier list, for most people's opinions, right, are that A tier. Right? Like that's kind of like where you stop to Sub-Zero and Shang, and where does that that's kind of, I think, where some uncertainty lies.
I feel like people either want their character to be like the best in the game or they want them to suck. Like there's up players and down players, but there's no like mid players, Like people see their character in A tier and they're just like, oh, that needs to be higher. People see their character in S tier, that needs to be lower, I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of, mix one way or the other kind of a thing. But I mean, that's just the natural thing of tier lists. Everyone's got an opinion and Sonic is definitely known for hot takes over the years. Some of the hottest of takes. I think one of the ones that I remember was MK11 Sub-Zero being like a bottom 2 character in that game. When that character's overhead was the most annoying thing in the world. It was slow, but I mean, not super reactable slow. I think it was like 21 frames or something like that. Yeah, I remember that being a super duper hot take. So who knows? This could just be something that they just mocked up one day. Who knows? No one will ever know for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be taking tier lists too seriously, like, anyway.
Yeah.
It is kind of opinion. It's interesting to hear what the narrative is, like what the dialogue is, people talking about matchups and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're still just playing the game. All this is doing is giving you ammunition to mean, like, you see, everyone thinks my character sucks. Or, like, you see, everyone thinks your character's busted.
Right. Exactly, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. Everyone's going to take that a different way too, You could absolutely like win an entire event, and everyone's like, well, of course you won. You used Peacemaker, like, or you go 0-2, and it's like, well, of course you went 0-2. You used freaking Atara, Quan Chi, So I mean, but I don't know. If you win, then people prop you up even more. Like, wow, you won a tournament with freaking Quan Chi or Havoc or some shit. Like,
I
you're
knew
amazing.
fucking Havoc was busted. I knew it.
Yeah, and then everyone's got him in the S tier, and they're next to freaking, even though it's the one dude that's been playing him since day one and found all the sauce and blah blah blah. Yeah, tier lists are definitely taken with a little bit of a grain of salt there. So, but that's it for another week. I think we covered all the topics that we wanted to go over, and yeah, I don't think we missed anything. Everything on our agenda has been covered, all to the near end, and I will have my video out on Quan Chi tomorrow, so don't worry, y'all. I'm not going to make you wait too much longer because I got a lot to say on that. So this should be
Do
fun.
you?
I do. I have a lot of opinions and a lot of things that I want to showcase.
Did you already make the video? You just gotta put it together now, or
I've made
you're
it
still
in.
putting together your thoughts?
I've made it in my head. I need to put it together
Um,
on. I've tested the things that I want to test, and everything kind of works out the way I thought it will. I just need to put it kind of out there, and then just form everything together based on all the talking points that I saw, and then go rewatch that video again just to make sure that I didn't miss anything important. Because yeah, I noticed a lot of
Right.
things were maybe surface level, not too much more thought went into it, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll let the viewers decide if they agree slash disagree.
no spoilers. We'll wait for it.
It'll be out tomorrow. But that's it for the podcast for another week. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like because it really helps me out, and subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.